Hi, sixth graders. This is Mr. Ott, and today I'm going to be reading one of my favorite stories from ancient Greece. It's a version of the epic poem, The Odyssey by the poet Homer. Now, the actual poem, The Odyssey, is hundreds of pages long, so we're not going to be reading that one. We're going to be reading a much shorter version of the poem called The Adventures of Odysseus. Now, like I said, this is one of my favorite stories from ancient Greece. It has everything. It has heroes, gods, monsters, and even a witch who turns people into pigs. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm only going to be reading one part of the story today. The story has multiple parts to it, which I will be reading over the rest of the school year. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's see. The Adventures of Odysseus. Odysseus sat slumped on the beach and stared across the shimmering sea. In the nearby camp, outside the city walls of Troy, he could hear his Greek soldiers grumbling. "It's no good. We can't win this war," growled one. "We've been here for 10 years. 10 years. I vote we give up and go home," said another. Odysseus groaned to himself. "They're right," he thought. "It's 10 years since I left my beloved wife Penelope and little son Telemachus. 10 years since I left my island kingdom of Ithaca to fight in this war. All those years since Paris, the Trojan prince, captured Helen, who is said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, and took her to Troy." He groaned again. 10 years ago, the Greeks, led by Odysseus, had gathered together an army and a great fleet of ships. Some said there were 1,000 altogether. They had sailed to Troy to rescue Helen and bring her back to her husband Menelaus. Although they had fought fierce battles with the Trojans, and many had been killed, they could not break into the city of Troy. Odysseus stood up and went in search of the other leaders. "The soldiers are getting restless. They want to go home," he said. "We can't give up now," replied one king. "I have an idea," said Odysseus, and he told them his plan. The wooden horse. For many days the Trojans watched from the tops of their city walls as the Greeks collected huge piles of wood on the beach. They sawed, chopped, and hammered it, while the Trojans wondered what the Greeks could be making. Then, one morning, as the Trojan guards on the walls looked out at dawn, they were amazed to see that the beach was empty. The Greek camp and all the ships pulled up on the beach had vanished. Nothing was left but an enormous wooden horse. "They've gone! The war is over! We've won! We've won!" the Trojans shouted. They opened the city gates and rushed down to the beach. They stared at the wooden horse, walked all around it, and tapped it. "Why have the Greeks left this?" one man asked. "It must be a gift for the goddess Athene," replied another. "We'll take it into the city." The Trojans dragged the wooden horse into the city square. That evening they had a huge party with masses of food and wine to celebrate the end of the war. Then they sang and they danced until, at last, tired out, they went to bed. When the whole city was quiet, the wooden horse creaked and a secret door opened. Inside were 10 Greeks. "Don't make a sound," whispered Odysseus to his soldiers, and let down a rope. They slid down it, ran silently through the city, knocked out the sleepy guards, and opened the city gates. Here's a picture of the Trojan horse, which Odysseus and the rest of the Greeks built to enter the city of Troy. In the night, the Greek fleet of ships had sailed back to Troy, and the army was waiting on the beach. When the gates were opened, they rushed into the city. Before the Trojan men could get out of bed and grab their weapons, the Greeks killed them. They rescued Helen, made the women and children their slaves, stole all the treasure, and set fire to the city. Odysseus' plan had worked, and the war was over. At last they could go home, taking Helen with them. The Greeks divided the Trojan treasures between them, loaded up their ships, and joyfully rowed away from the ruined city of Troy. Odysseus and his men set sail, and, in a great storm which lasted for days, became separated from the other ships. When the sea was calm again, they were alone. They sailed on, stopping at islands where sometimes the crew had to fight battles to escape, and sometimes were welcomed and given food and water. Storms drove their ships across wild seas and past rocky shores where they couldn't land. When the wind dropped, they had to row until they were too tired to go on. Alright, so I'm going to stop there today. Like I said, the story has many parts to it, and this is the end of the first part. Next time I'll be reading the second part, in which Odysseus lands on an island with a Cyclops on it. Until then, I will see you guys in class, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.